Well, it's sure been a while, hasn't it? I think it's been close to a month or so since I put up my last video. I don't know. Life's been busy. And, this isn't something I do full time. So between my normal life expectations, money, everything else in between, sometimes things have to be put on the back burner. And as you can see, this car really hasn't made much difference and hasn't really moved much since I was last out here. But today I want to spend some time on it. I want to get some things done. Got a lot to do and a lot of things that need to be done. Nothing major, nothing large or anything like that. It's just a lot of small tedious things. I've done some things sort of in between. So like as an example, I got my oil pressure sender down there working. Verify just by cranking it over, I can get about 30 PSI out of it. So I know that's working. The other issue that I was having was this is the old gauge for the temp out of the dash. You can see this one's actually in Celsius, but I was able to source one, and you can see down there that a new one is in place. That one's in Fahrenheit, so it's off compared to this one, but generally when you're reading these gauges and when you're buying thermostats, they're all in Fahrenheit anyways. They're all reading like 180, 190, whatever it is. So to me, it makes it just a little bit easier to read. If I have an issue with it, I can probably source a Celsius one and replace that out. I don't know if the temp gauge works 100% yet. When I do the ground test and the gauge test, that does work. So I know at least that part of it is working. But today, basically, things that I want to try and get done. I've already drained the oil of the machine, out of the car, out of the engine. So much gas in the oil. Not surprising considering the float bowls were not working. So who knows how much oil was pouring down the intake in this thing down to the oil. So that got drained. So I got a new oil filter. I got to install in this thing. I've got, you can see here, I've got new valve cover gaskets that I need to install on both sides. Still has old cork ones. I know some people prefer the cork. I'm more of a fan of the Felpro Permadrives that are more rubber with the metal inserts. They basically don't allow you to over tighten or over torque these. You can see I got to put the carb on, which is over there. I still have to put the new power valve into that one because I think if I remember correctly, that one's a 4.5 and I got a 6.5, and I just want to kind of push that back a little bit just to kind of make sure that this thing is sort of a baseline before I start really tweaking on it. And then the other thing I got to do is pull the distributor and set the timing. I want to make sure that that is set properly before I start this because I have no idea where it was. I did confirm top dead center is right where it should be, so there's no problem with that. And then once I have all that done, I got new plugs that I want to put into it, and we'll go from there. So we got a bit of work, but nothing major. So I'll probably start with pulling the distributor, getting the timing set the top dead center for number 1 on that. And then once we have this timing set, I'll install the carb. And then once we have the carb installed, I'll do the valve cover gaskets, the oil filter, and probably next video, this thing should be starting. Made a bunch of changes to the wiring. So the wiring down here is all cleaned up. It's all nice and ran through in the back and all through there, relatively loomed. So that got all cleaned up. That was a big undertaking, a lot of changes in pinning and all that. So yeah, so I'll get some of the stuff going. Once I have the distributor out and I'm starting the top dead center, I will bring you guys back and sort of show you how I do that. Not going to go too much into depth with that. There's a lot of videos out there regarding that. I mean, if you guys would like to see or like to know how I do it, let me know. I can get you guys going and show you some tips on that. Otherwise, bring you back in a few when I have all that out. All right, so distributor's pulled. Now I got to deal with setting the base timing on this. So generally what I have is I have this little guy here, just a little plastic rod, and it's soft and it's flexible and I don't have to worry about too much. And basically what I do is I shove it in the number 1 spark plug hole, and then I basically crank it over, and what I do is I'll watch it come up, and then it'll stop, and then that's when I know it's at top dead center. And then from there I basically set the pulley and the timing tab to about 8 degrees. So you can see down here, that's the tab and the 0 degree. And you can see right now that that's set at 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking that, I'm going to be setting it to about 8 degrees before, and about 8 to 10 degrees before is about where these things like to start. So I'll set that at 8 degrees, and then once I get that set to 8 degrees, then I'll be putting the distributor back in and marking the number 1. And then from there I can start doing things like spark plugs and getting those installed and the wires installed. And then from there, can do the carb and the valve covers, and we'll see where we get tonight. I'm not sure how far we'll get. I got to do the oil filter as well. So we'll see where we get. And then from there, we'll just see what happens. So I'll set that at 8 degrees. I'll put the plugs and the distributor in, and then I'll bring you guys back after I've done all that and show you where I'm at. Okay, so distributor is reinstalled. So a little secret when you're doing this, you can mark your base down here, a little paint marker, just so you know where your rotor is pointing. And then you can line that up with whatever post you want to stop dead center for number 1. So this will be my number 1 post. So I mark the base so that all lines up. The balancer down here, you can see it's at 8 degrees before. So ignition wise, distributor wise, this thing is done. I do have the lockdown installed. It's just snug right now so that it can't really turn or do a whole lot. So now I'm going to install the spark plugs, and I'm going to install the spark plug wires, get that stuff sorted out and organized. Figuring out spark plug wire lengths is always a fun little challenge, as well as running the wires correctly. So that'll be another little challenge. So I'll get that done, and once that is done, I will show you guys where I'm at. After I've done that, it will probably be carburetor install, and then we'll see where we're at from there. All right, so we made a little bit of headway here. Spark plugs and the wires are all installed on both sides. Wires are a complete mess. I don't know if I've just missed which ones are for which, or if they're the wrong ones, or if they're just too long, or what's going on there. So I'll figure that out, but that's all installed. So distributor is done, hooked up, wires are installed, new plugs are installed. So now what I need to do is I need to take off the valve covers and switch out valve cover gaskets, because they got the cork ones on it still, and I'm not a fan of the cork. And as I was saying earlier, I've got these Velcro ones, the Perma-Dry, and they got a metal insert so you can't over torque them, but they also come with the spreader bars as well in it, so it's a 2-for-1 on these, so they work really well. So I'm going to take the covers off, and then I'm going to put the new gaskets on and put those back on, and I'll bring you back so you can see what that looks like. I may even bring you back in just a minute or two after I get the covers off, so you can just take a look and see just why I don't care much for the cork ones. All right, so valve covers installed, spreader bars. I was going to use those, but these valve covers, for some reason, they got these little ramps on it, so they've already got spreader bars built into it. So got those both installed, no issues there. So now it's going to be going on to installing the carburetor. The carburetor also comes with the 2 gaskets, and I think it's either a 3/4 or 1-inch spacer. On top of that, I also picked up this guy here, which is a proper bracket to secure the throttle cable to the carburetor. The other one was kind of janky and I didn't really care much for it, so we're going to have that to install. So I'm going to put that all together, get that all started down. Hopefully I can find all the nuts to secure the carb, or I may have to run to the store tomorrow and pick them up so I can continue doing that. But I'm not. We're going to work on that, and then I will bring you guys back once I have that completed so you can see how that is all done. And then once the carb is installed, I think aside from, I think that's pretty much all of the top end. Okay, so got some progress on the car. You can see carburetor's installed. You can see down here is the bracket that I was talking about earlier. the throttle cable bends extremely sharp through here. So I'm gonna have to end up finding a better way or figure out something better for that so it's not so tight. It's not causing a problem, and this bracket holds it straight enough, so I'm not too concerned. Few issues I ran into putting this on. So previously, the owners of this car, or whoever decided to make the changes to this car, they used, so right now you can see like I'm running hardline here, which is really janky, and I really don't like it. It's got a bad bend here, and it comes down to this T. But what they were using, and I don't have it anymore because I had to chop it up, is a dual feed line that basically connected here, came out, and then basically it stopped right about here. And the problem with that is that little point that came off to attach the fuel line to was almost within millimeters of touching the back of the carburetor. And so that wasn't going to work for this. And I'll put up a picture of that I put in here, or that was in here, so that I can show you what that looks like. They're fairly common at most parts stores. I think they're like 30 bucks, so most people just use them and don't really think too much of it, which wasn't a big deal. But what I ended up having to do, and this kind of posed a few tough things. So first off was trying to find this block. For the part number for this, I'll put in the description with a few part numbers that work for this particular piece. But the challenging part about this was trying to find the fittings. And the reason is that this is like, I don't remember off the top of my head. I think I want to say this is like 7/8 or 7/16 with a 20 thread on it, if I remember. And these are, I want to say 5/8 or 5/16 with an 18 thread, I think. And every part store that I went to looking for these fittings, they were basically like, we don't have them. We maybe got one, maybe two, but we don't have them. So being in a small town that I live in, trying to find these at these stores was being very difficult. And so when I went into the city and I started looking around for this, what I actually found, and to make this simpler for anybody who wants to do this, is walk into your parts store. Say you're looking for steel 3/8 line. They come pre-flared, and they come in 12, 24, 36-inch lengths, and they already have the fittings on it. So then basically all you're doing is you're buying the two hard lines, or however many hard lines you want. I would suggest probably buying a few of them, just because bending line is a very black art, and you make a lot of mistakes, so you do a lot of rebends. So you'll pick up those. You'll want to pick up a tubing cutter, a deburr, get yourself a good flaring tool if you can find one. The cheap ones work, but you spend more time trying to mess around with doing the flares on them. And then you'll need a tubing bender that does 3/8 tubing. And then once you have all your frustrations and anger out from trying to bend all that tubing up, you basically end up with this guy here, which is your two feed lines, and then your main feed line from your fuel pump. This is just temporary. I was sourcing out and trying to find locally. Again, in Canada, this stuff can either be very difficult to find or very expensive, is all the fittings for this. I found a few suppliers that has some nice AN lines or fittings, so I'll get some nice PTFE line, and then I'll make this all proper in the future, because as you can see, this bends around here to soft line. The soft line runs down to the fuel pump, which is down there. And basically I want this to just come straight out and go straight down to the fuel pump and not be all over the place here. And then you can see the other soft line here, which again is, I don't even know if this is actual fuel line or whatever it is, but I don't like it. So those will be some changes coming down the line. Once I had that all sorted out, other issues that I ran into was the accelerator pump gasket under here was basically leaking. So anytime you did anything with the accelerator pump, it would basically throw fuel down into the intake here. And you can see that's back here. You can see the yellow because the one on this side is leaking as well. So got to get that. And basically I got the car up and running and got it where it should be. But the interesting thing about this car is, again, that I have no idea what they did to this car when they built it. I don't know the cam. I don't know, what type of lifters are in it, what type of push rods are in it. Like, I don't know any of that stuff. And what I found is that basically where the distributor is sitting right now, I was able to get this car running easily at about 12 degrees before top dead center. But what I found was that the vacuum was around 6 to 8 inches. And I mean, that's not bad, but I would like to see it much, I would prefer to still see somewhere like the 15 to 16 or better if I could. So I think this car is going to want to be running probably close to 16 degrees, 14 degrees initial. So what I'll be doing is pulling the distributor and reclocking it, probably moving it one tooth over, and then getting that set up so that it runs properly. And can definitely say, you know, getting this thing running at the proper timing made a big difference in how this thing ran overall. Running it at 10 degrees before top dead center, I couldn't get this thing to idle any less than about 1200 RPM, which is too high. So when I found that I set the initial timing at 14 to 16, I could get it to drop to about 950, 900-ish. So I know basically where it needs to be for this thing to run smoothly, and I will be working on that. But for now, I mean, I still got some work to do. You'll see in a upcoming video, I have to do an alternator replacement, but in doing that, that'll be different than what you'll normally see people do. So that will be coming, and then once I get the electrical finished on this, then I can get it back on the wheels and I can get this thing moving. But there's still some electrical gremlins that I'm working out with this. As an example, there was an aftermarket alarm or something in this car at some point. I don't know, in a immobilizer or something. And the wiring was so badly done on that it kept causing issues sending the 12-volt signal to the alternator turn on line. So I was having issues like that. So it's a bunch of little things like that are still left. But I'm pretty sure, and I feel fairly confident that I'm kind of at the end of all that. So I'm basically going to leave this one here now. Because I basically got done what I wanted. The distributors and the carburetors, and it's running again. So for now, the car is good. It's just moving forward. It's just going to be doing the 100 little tweaks between the carburetor and the timing and the distributor and all that stuff when you get these things going. So so thanks for watching. Any questions, comments, feel free to post below. I will always answer them. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.